What's up, guys? This is Ronney back at you again with another barbecue video for you cookers at home. Today we have brisket. That's right, the holy grail. The holy grail of smoking, we have brisket. Now, I don't proclaim to be a brisket expert. This is probably my third brisket in life making. Maybe that might be a little bit too small of a number. Maybe 5. But I aim today to show you a few things I've learned along the way. We're doing this one late. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. I was at the racetrack today. If you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, today is May 16th. I was at the Joliet racetrack today watching some drag race, and then lo and behold, a dust storm came through. Maybe I'll throw some footage of that dust storm up today that I experienced. That was something. But we made it through. Got to see a couple hours of drag racing, and got to see my favorite drag racer out there, Clay Millican, the People's Champ. Throw a couple pictures of those there too of my But back to what we're here for, the brisket. So here we have a Packer brisket. This I bought yesterday, or rather correction, this morning at Peoria Meat here in Chicago. This sucker is 11.6 pounds. They had some ginormous ones there that were almost 14 pounds. That was a big sucker. We didn't want one that big. We got an order for a brisket. That's why we're doing this. So without further ado, we're going to open this thing up, and then I'll walk you through a little bit of the prep process as we go. So hang on, and I'll get this guy out the bag, wash it down a little bit, and then we'll come back for the trimming process. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. We got this brisket out of the bag, rinsed it off a little bit, and right now we're going to go over the anatomy of a brisket. So I'm going to bring you in close. We'll be right here on the work surface so you can see what I'm doing up close. All right, so you're in tight now, as you can see. So with this brisket, this top part, this is called the fat cap. In general, this is what we're going to be trimming down. Typically, we want to trim this fat cap down to about 1/4 inch. And then a little bit parts of about the anatomy. So this brisket has really 2 muscles in there. If you were to follow, kind of like there's a seam here, which I'll show you in a moment. This part here is called the flat. You can kind of see that is flat. And then this part up here is called the point. So really 2 different muscles. They have 2 different textures. Typically, if you're in the barbecue restaurant and you get brisket slices, that's going to typically come from your flat part, the flat part of the brisket. And you get a flat if you get a Packer brisket. So you can, sometimes in the store, you might see this a flat by itself, which is that flat part, or you might see the point side, which is the fattier side of the brisket. So what we want to do with this whole Packer brisket is to trim off some of this excess fat. You can see this section here. This is all fat. This, during our cooking process, is not going to render out. So we're going to want to trim a lot of this fat down, because the cooking process is a very long cooking process. We're looking at about almost 12 hours, plus maybe 12 to 15, depending on how your brisket does and the size of it, to cook a brisket of this size. So this is a time commitment if you choose to cook this. But yeah, so this is our brisket. We're going to get it trimmed up, and we'll go from there. Once we get the trim, I'll fast forward this part so you don't get too bored. But again, long story short, we're going to be trimming out a lot of this excess fat, getting this fat cap here on the other side, kind of trimmed down to about 1/4 inch of fat on there. And then the trimmings, if you're so inclined, you can keep the trimmings to, if you have a grinder at home, to make sausage, not sausage, but to make hamburger or anything like that. But without further ado, we'll get through this trimming process, and then once we get it trimmed, we'll get you to the seasoning, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Before I begin the trimming process, anything that looks like you wouldn't want to eat it, or any of these loose pieces like this guy here is hanging out, you want to trim all that down. You want this thing to be basically as aerodynamic as you can, so that your bark, when we talk about the seasoning, has a better chance of adhering. Any silver skin that you can get rid of and trim up, you want to get rid of all of that stuff. Also, you may notice on your pack of brisket, there's a side that looks kind of burnt. Perhaps this is from the manufacturing or preparation of your brisket at the processing facility, and they had a hot knife when they cut this, so this we're going to trim off as well. You can see now our edge is cleaned up and fresh, and then you can also see here all of this fat. We're going to be trimming this out, because this amount of fat is not going to render out during our cooking process. And then you can kind of see the thickness of this fat cap here. This one is almost really a 1/4 inch, so depending on how well your brisket was trimmed at the factory, you may not have to trim as much. So, you know, your mileage may vary. Now we're about to remove this big hunk of fat that's here that's not going to render. So you'll see this on your brisket as well. You can see we cut into that there. That's just nothing but fat. So we're going to trim this out. Same thing with this big old hunk right here. You can see when we cut down into there, there's nothing but fat there. So we want to get most of that out. So what you see me doing right now is trimming off a lot of this silver skin on the back side of this brisket. You could spend all day doing this, but as long as you get a good amount of it off, you know, you just get a better finished product, you know, if you get some of that silver skin off, because this, all it's going to do is add a little chew to it. But, you know, if you have the time, you know, clean it up. The brisket trim is done. We've got a good amount of the silver skin off of the back of our brisket. We trimmed up the fat cap side to around a 1/4 inch, got rid of any silver skin. We squared them up a little bit, got rid of that big old hunk of fat that's there in the area between the point and the flat. We got the manufacturing of the end that looks like it's a little bit burnt, cleaned up, squared it up as I mentioned, and now we're ready to season. So traditionally, Texas style barbecue, there's straight salt and pepper here. That's what they would do, a nice, not too coarse of a ground black pepper, and also a salt equal parts. But today I'm going with our Montreal steak seasoning. I've used this the last time I did a brisket for at home. It was great. You know, keep it simple, stupid. It's a great seasoning, and it came out excellent. So we're going to season with that. And then you can see we have a fair amount of trimmings here. So if you are so inclined, you can make a beef stew with this. You can make hamburger if you have a grinder, a number of things. So don't throw out your trimmings. If you have a dog, you can, cook this for your animal. Maybe don't give them the fatty parts, obviously, but, a lot of things you can do with the trimmings. And don't be afraid to trim your meat to get it down to a state where you don't have chewy spots. I can't say that enough. It's okay. It's part of the process. And if you're crafty, you can make use of it someplace else. Now onto the seasoning. So we're about to season this guy with our Montreal steak seasoning. You can apply a binder if you wish. You could do mustard. That's typically what I normally would do. But in this case, since this meat is a little bit moist already, I'm not going to apply a binder. We're going to pat in our seasoning once we get it on in a liberal fashion. So without further ado, we'll speed up through this. And then next time you see us, we'll give you a little bit of a preview of the cooking process, and we'll get it on the grill. You can see we have our brisket seasoned and it's ready for the smoker. Let me give you the rundown of the temperatures we're trying to hit, what we're going to be smoking it at, and all that fun stuff. So this brisket, we're going to be smoking between 225 and 275 on our smoker. If you happen to have an offset smoker where you got the heat source on one side, you're going to want to put the point side of the brisket toward your heat source. So in that case, that would be this side if you're running an offset. So during this first several hours of cooking this thing, because you're going to be smoking this guy until it gets to 165, you can come outside and hit it with some apple cider vinegar and water mix, some apple juice, just to keep it moist on the top. After we get to 165, which for this guy is going to probably take about 5 to 6 hours, like overnight, to get there, we're going to take them off and we're going to wrap them in butcher paper. After we get them wrapped, we're going to let this guy continue on until we reach an internal temperature of 203 degrees. Once we hit that temp, we're going to pull it, put it in some aluminum foil, and then we're going to let that guy rest for at least 2 to 3 hours in a cooler, wrapped in a towel to keep the heat in. So I'm going to run you through all that as we go. This is going to be a multi-day video because we're going to put it on, and then we're going to go to bed, and then we're going to wake up in the morning, check the temp, and I'll bring you along for the whole thing. And all those things that I just mentioned, I'll have it here on the side of the screen so you can look at it and take notes. But again, just go out there and have fun with this. I know this is complicated. It's a long cook. Sometimes it can scare you away a little bit, but don't be afraid. You might screw it up. That's okay. But have fun while you're doing it, even if you screw up. I know I've screwed up a couple. So without further ado, I'm gonna stop blabbing, and we're gonna get this thing out on the smoker. I'll show you sitting it out there, and then we'll come back in the morning. See you outside. Yeah. All right, guys, we're out here at the pit. It is almost dark 30. It's 11:22, and we're about to put this brisket on. Got my son out here. He's our light and camera guy. So without further ado, here's our brisket. We're going to be putting this bad boy on fat side up, and we're going to be cooking it to about, what did I say, 110? I lied again. I'll put it on the screen. It's late, but we're about to put her on now, and I'll put on the screen what we're supposed to be cooking it to. There she is. We'll come back in the morning, and then we'll see where we are. Good night.
Good morning, guys. It is now 7:48 a.m. the next day, but the most unfortunate situation has occurred. We must have had a brownout at some point last night, and the power went out. What? The power went out. So yes, due to food safety reasons, we will be going to get another brisket this morning, and we will start over. That effing sucks, but hey, safety first. So message out there, maybe on a windy day have some sort of alarm, or wake up a couple of times a night to check your grill just in case you have a brownout from the wind. And it's still windy this morning. So we're off to Walmart this time to go get a brisket. So we'll be back. We're going to season that bad boy up, get it on there. We got a delivery sometime around 5 or 6. So we're going to have to speed cook this sucker. Let's go. What's up, guys? We're out on the way to Walmart to get this brisket. So we're going to switch from low and slow to the hot and fast method for cooking this brisket to get this thing done. When I get back, when we get this thing in edit, I'm going to put on the screen what this hot and fast method is. A little bit more technical maybe, but we'll find out, see if we can get this baby done. Fun times, man, fun times. Brownouts, windstorms, dust storms in Chicago. But party on, baby, party on. All right, guys, we made it to Walmart, and we did find a smaller brisket. Let me switch to it. You can see here we got a 10-pounder. We're going to roll with the smaller guy so we can get this done in the time required. Got some bigger ones too, 14-pounder, but we're going to go with this 9.63. Hey guys, all right, we're back. And we're starting to get this other brisket trimmed up. Just wanted to show you. You can see this one has a little bit more of a fat cap here that we're going to have to trim down, more so than the one that we messed up. So again, we're on the rescue of the brisket. All right, guys, we just got this brisket off, and we're at about 180. We ran a little bit past 160. I was with my son at some school stuff. So we're out, we're about to wrap it. We're going for 206 on the doneness. Remember, we're doing hot and fast because the other brisket went bad. So this is what it looks like mid-cook. We'll come for a little close-up there, you can see, but we're about to wrap it in butcher paper, put it back on, and let it get to 206, and we will see how it comes out. All right. that brisket. It has passed the taste test. Hot and fast. Yo, what's up, guys? This is Ronney reporting from Clay Milliken's pit. Ronney at Clay's pit. You can see the dust in the air behind us. It's pretty nuts out here. Yeah, I'm gonna be riding down a little bit, just kind of let it die down a little bit with all the people leaving. But look way over there, you can barely see the electric poles over there. So yeah, it's pretty rough and tumble over here. That's it for now.